Hello there, everybody. Michael Chamberlain and Jacob Reinheimer here in the Dan Patch studio as we once again kick off the Road to the Derby Challenge. And first order of business, Jacob, I want to give you congratulations on winning the Breakthrough Award this year. You'll be receiving that in February down in Florida, and congratulations. I had to know your family's proud of you, the Royal Racing family of Indiana, the Reinheimers, so that's just a great honor.
Yeah, it really is. It's a cool honor, just kind of blown away and still haven't fully wrapped my head around it. Pretty cool, too. It's 10 years right after Emily Gaskin won the same award 10 years ago,
yeah.
So kind of nice to follow in those footsteps, and a great honor and a very, very pleasant surprise.
That's good to see. It's good to see that the industry recognizes the young folks that are keeping the industry. I mean, this is coming from somebody who's, the paper from my first picks were what the cavemen used for kindling for the first fires. So, congratulations, a wonderful honor, and I'm sure we're all proud of you here, and very, very well deserved for sure. Let's talk a little bit about the Road to the Derby Challenge before we get to our first race, Jacob, as this contest comes back again for 2025.
Yeah, and there is a lot of cash on the line, over $3,500 on the line over the course of the Road to the Derby Challenge. We kick it off here a little bit earlier this year than in years past.
Yes.
As we kick it off on January 18th with the Lecomte, and then we're going to take a week off, but then really from the Holy Bull all the way to that triple finish with the Wood Memorial, Bluegrass, and Santa Anita Derby, we are going to be very consistent week after week. We're going to have three $25 winners after each race, but then you accumulate those points over the course of the spring, and that grand prize winner is going to go home with $2,000. And also, if you play all 11 weeks, you're going to get $2,000 or 2,000 rewards credits rather. So it pays to play along here over the course of this Road to the Derby Challenge.
It's hard to believe we're already back on the Road to the Derby. I mean, it just seems like yesterday that you were upset that Mystic Dan beat you by about that much with Sierra Leone. But it's time again, and we've got a great race to start with, a field of 14. Going in the Grade 3 $250,000 Lecomte Stakes from the fairgrounds down there in New Orleans. And, of course, they've got the Super Bowl coming up in New Orleans at the next month as well. So they're going to have a lot going on down there in the Big Easy. And it starts off with this tremendous race where, the favorite in here, Built, is 3-1 on the morning line, but is parked way out in the 13 hole in this field of 14. And having been to the fairgrounds myself, I know that normally, a lot of thoroughbred tracks will run a 1 mile 70-yard race. They run at 1 mile 40 yards there. So it's a long stretch, very comparable to what it is at Churchill Downs as far as length of stretch. And I don't think that the outside post is going to hamper Built that much, but still being way out there almost in the parking lot, that can be a bit of a factor here, especially when they're a 3-1 favorite in a big field.
Yeah, it's not just Built either. You get Disco Time all the way out in the 11 who's 9-2 on the morning line as well. And I think that's what makes this race so intriguing, and so much of the power does find itself all the way to the far outside, and a couple of horses that like to be forwardly placed, so they're going to have to work hard to get to the front if that's going to be their tactic in here. And I think it makes it very, very compelling. I know I'm pretty high on Built coming into this race, but I can certainly understand why you would look for a price in the spot. Yeah,
and let's take a look at the selections here as we now put up our top 4 selections for this race. You mentioned I'm looking for a price, and you also mentioned the 11 Disco Time. I came down to the 2 horses I have on top here, the 8 Tough Catch and the 11 Disco Time. I thought one or the two of them should be the top pick in here, and I basically went with Tough Catch because he's 10-1 on the morning line, and Disco Time is 9-2. Tough Catch is getting Luis Saez aboard. Saez was aboard for the victory in the Sugar Bowl last time out on December 21st at the fairgrounds. This horse is 1-for-1 on the track. The one negative is that this horse has not been around 2 turns yet. The longest race was the 7-furlong Grade 1 Hopeful, going back to the Spa last September, and this horse ran 6th in that race behind Chancer McPatrick, who I think is going to be a little late getting on the Derby scene from what I've been reading for the beginning of 2025. But I do think this horse does stand a good chance in here at a nice price. Complexity is the sire, a multiple graded stakes winner, including winning the Grade 1 Champagne, which used to be the big race for 2-year-olds going back quite some time. But Luis Saez is aboard for Dallas Stewart. Dallas Stewart always comes up with these horses that kind of slide in there. You remember he had like a little streak there where he was like second in the Derby 2 or 3 years in a row with horses at massive odds, and I just think this horse certainly merits a look. will not be too far back, or should not be, I should say, too far back in the pack. Probably sit maybe mid-pack, maybe just a little forwardly placed from mid-pack, but I do like the 8 Tough Catch with that 10-1 price tag.
Well, that definitely piqued my interest, and I had to take a long, hard look at there. It was just extending out to this distance for the first time that made me look elsewhere, and that's why I did go with the morning line favorite on top in Built, coming off a win in stakes action at Fairgrounds at this distance in the Gun Runner, and it was a very impressive win. Won by nearly 7 lengths on that day, led every step of the way. Will say, though, got very soft fractions up front, and you would expect him to kind of power away from those spots, but still went off at 3-1 in that spot, and I loved how he handled stretching out to this distance for the first time after his longest race prior to that came in maiden company at 7 furlongs at Keeneland. So I think he only got stronger as the race went on, and for that reason, even with the outside post position, I think he's got enough early speed to navigate that early enough, so I am going to go with him on top.
I have Built third myself, and the thing that kind of concerned me was the first race he was in. If you look at these past performances, he did not get to the lead and still closed nicely and was moved up to third via disqualification and on that first race at Ellis Park back in August. Then after that, in the race at Keeneland you referenced, and then in the Gun Runner, this horse has been right at the front, forwardly placed, and I'm just wondering how it's going to work out for this horse to get that close or on the lead from that number 13 post position. If you take a look to the inside of that one, I mean, an Innovator, the horse on the rail, certainly wants to go to the front. Your second pick, Maximum Promise, appears to want to go to the front. So I think there's going to be a lot of speed in this race, and that could certainly pose a bit of a problem for the favorite.
Yeah, and I certainly understand that, but I thought it actually started from the rail last time out in that Gun Runner and got out of the rail very, very well. So I do think he just needs to mature. This is going to be the second time with Loveberry aboard for trainer Wayne Catalano, and I was just so impressed by that race, and I think he's got some of those horses coming from the Gun Runner that I thought he separated himself by quite a bit in that spot. So I'm willing to take a shot, but like I said, I certainly don't fault someone for taking a shot at a better price.
And the second pick for me and the third pick for Jacob is the horse we referenced earlier, the 11 Disco Time by Not This Time, the sire who came on the scene, has come on the scene really tremendously here the last couple of years with some very strong runners. This horse is undefeated, 2 for 2, both of those victories coming at Churchill Downs, one at 7 furlongs, one at a mile, and of course the mile at Churchill Downs is a 1-turn mile. They do not go around the 2 turns there for the 1 mile distance, but again, very well-bred horse by Not This Time. Florent Giroux is going to be aboard for Brad Cox, coming back from the last start at the end of November. So it's going to be interesting to see how this horse comes back off that break.
Yeah, that is going to be very intriguing, and Brad Cox has success in this race before. He won it 2 years ago with Instant Coffee. Luis Saez aboard that time 2 years ago in the spot, but yeah, certainly caught my eye. I do like the fact that he has experience over Churchill Downs, as you mentioned, kind of similar length stretch to how they race over at Fairgrounds. So I think that's going to translate very well, and I'm just not going to be one to leave Brad Cox off my ticket.
No, he couldn't do that, certainly, and I have your top pick, the 13 Built in the third spot. You have, as I mentioned, you had the 2 Maximum Promise second. That one's a nice 10-1 price tag as well.
Yeah, willing to take a shot on this one at a nice price for trainer Kenny McPeak, who of course had an incredible year last year. This is one they tried on the turf at Ellis Park originally, finished 5th, but did pass horses before going to the dirt for the first time at Ellis Park back in August, so coming off a lengthy layoff, but was very aggressive going to the dirt for the first time. They put him on the front end, ends up winning by 14 lengths against Maiden Company, a big step up in company, obviously, but I do like the fact that he has early speed, and with the power all being to the outside, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I think he'll get away in good order, and if he can hang on for a piece at a nice price, they're getting 10-1 right now on the morning line, I think he'll get a nice price on Maximum Promise, so I do like him underneath as a value play.
And we do agree also on the 4th horse, which is the 4 Magnitude, Jose Ortiz riding for trainer Steve Asmussen, who the one glaring omission on his resume is he has not won the Kentucky Derby. Came close, lost to 80-1 Rich Strike with Epicenter just a couple of years ago, but certainly it would almost be kind of like Sam Snead not winning the U.S. Open if Steve Asmussen is not able to get a Derby on his card before the end of his career. Another one by Not This Time. This horse has a win and a second in the last 2 and was second to your top pick in that Gun Runner, was second all the way around. I mean, it just was right there and just ran right behind that top pick all the way around the racetrack. As I said, very good lineage by Not This Time out of a Bernardini mare. Bernardini, of course, a Preakness winner going back to 2006. So I think the 4 for Magnitude, which we do agree on here as the fourth selection. I think this horse could certainly hit the board.
Absolutely. Second time with Jose Ortiz aboard, and you mentioned, of course, Asperson coming up short in the Kentucky Derby. Hasn't come up short too often in this race, as he's won it twice in the last 4 years, with Midnight Bourbon in 2021, Track Phantom last year, who was on the Derby trail for much of last spring. So Magnitude, I do think built was just much, much better going back to the gun runner. That's why I could not really make a case for Magnitude and getting the win in the spot, but certainly underneath would not shock me in the slightest.
Well, that's our top 4 picks in this race. As far as maybe a betting strategy for this race, as I said, those first 2 for me kind of stood out. So I would play a nice exacta box, maybe throw in the favorite Built and make it a dollar exacta box for a $6 play with those 3 horses. Or if you're a little more extravagant, you can play the $2 exacta box and make it $12. But I like those top 3 in an exacta box, and I certainly think that that would be a nice betting strategy going into this one.
Yeah, I think I would end up kind of singling Built on top and then looking for value underneath in the exotics with the exactas, trifectas with a horse like Maxim Promise, who I like at a price underneath. That would be kind of my strategy. As I said, I'm pretty high on Built coming into this based on what we saw in the gun runners, so I would kind of load up there and try to reward my confidence with some nice prices underneath.
One other price that you may want to throw in if you're going to do that is the 3-horse Admiral Dennis. Joel Rosario is riding for Brad Cox by Constitution out of a Union Rags mare. Was 4th in that gun runner, but was the betting favorite in there and has been the betting favorite in all 3 previous races. That is worth noting, is 8-1 on the morning line here. It will be interesting to see if Admiral Dennis can go a little forward, and especially coming from that number 3 post position. And I expect this one maybe to get the same kind of trip as my top pick, Tough Catch.
And that's the thing. That's what makes this race so incredibly interesting. Could not ask for a better start to this Road to the Derby contest, as you can go so many different directions. Again, do want to mention for this Road to the Derby contest, all you do when you get here on Saturday, everything is going to be on the trackside promotional kiosk. So just come here to trackside at Hoosier Park, or go to the rewards desk at our OTB properties at Indianapolis or New Haven if you want to participate there. But you'll make your selection on the trackside promotional kiosk for this week's Road to the Derby contest, and then immediately following this, Lecomte will announce the 3 $25 winners for this week.
And that's good to note that you don't necessarily have to be here at the track itself to participate. You can be at one of our satellites there, as you mentioned, in Indianapolis and New Haven, and you can take part in our Road to the Derby Challenge as we kick it off this Saturday with the Grade 3 Lecomte Stakes from New Orleans. Part of a big 12-race card there. They've got a couple of graded stakes races on there, some nice turf stakes as well. Hit Show, who was in the Derby last year, and I know a lot of people like that horse in that race, is going to be a part of that program as well down in New Orleans on Saturday. So let's hope that the weather gods are going to be good to the folks down there in New Orleans, and they'll have fast and firm surfaces for their racing on Saturday. Any other points we want to interject here before we conclude?
No, just going to be fun to watch this race. Fairgrounds going to be prominent throughout the Road to the Derby,
Yes.
of course, as we come back a little bit later with the Risen Star on February 15th, and then, of course, that Louisiana Derby on March 22nd as we begin to head into that final stretch of this Road to the Derby contest, so ready to get this thing underway.
And don't forget that Louisiana Derby now is 1 mile and 3/16, same distance as the Preakness, and I like that race as a prep to get closer to the Derby. You know, these horses, the farther they go and they realize that they can do it, they start to learn how to do that. I think that's a very good prep race coming up later on this year. So as we have now concluded our look at the Grade 3 Lecomte Stakes, we're kicking off the Road to the Derby Challenge this Saturday. We do invite you to be here at Harrah's Hoosier Park or at our satellite sites down in Indianapolis or up in New Haven, and you can take part in the Road to the Derby Challenge as well. For Jacob Reinheimer, I'm Michael Chamberlain, wishing the best of luck to you all.